Prologue of The Other Side of the Door. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Lee Ann Howlett. The Other Side of the Door by Lucia Chamberlain. Prologue. The City. The city is always gray. Even in March, the greenest month of all, when the Presidio and the Mission Hills and the islands in the bay are beautiful with spring, there's only such a little bit of green gets into the city. It lies in the lap of 5 hills, climbing upward toward their crests where the trees are all doubled and bent by the trade wind. It seems to give its own color to the growing things in it. The cypress hedges are dusty black. The eucalyptus trees are gray as the house fronts they knock against, and even the plaza grass looks dark and old, as if it had been the same grass always, and never came up new in the spring. But for the most part there are no trees, and only the finest places have gardens. There are only rows and rows of houses painted gray, with here and there a white one, or a glass conservatory front. But the fog and dust all summer gray these too, and when the trade winds blow hard it takes the smoke out over the East Bay and makes that as gray as the city. And yet the city doesn't look sad. The sky is too blue, and the bay is too blue around it, and the flying fog, and the wind, and the strong tide flowing in and out of the bay are like restless, eager creatures that never sleep or grow tired. When I was a very little child the fierceness of it frightened me. All the noises of the city made one harsh, threatening voice to my ears, and the perilous water encompassing far as eye could reach, and the high hills running up into the sky now blinded by dust, now buried in fog, now drenched in rain, were overpowering and terrifying to me. Beyond that general seeming of terror, there is little I remember of the early city, except the glimmer of white tent-tops against gray fog or blue water, the loud voices in the streets, and a vague general impression of rapid and violent changes of place and circumstance. Through their confusion 3 figures only move with any clearness: my tall, teasing father, my grim nurse Abby, and my pale-haired mother. Indeed, the first distinct incident that stands forth from that dim background is the death of my mother. It was a puzzle for a child. One day she was there, ill in bed, but visible, palpable, able to speak, to smile, to kiss. The next she had disappeared. They said she had gone away, but I knew that was nonsense, for when people went away it was in the daytime with bags and umbrellas, and everyone knew they were going, and where they went. But with my mother it was different. One day she was there, the next she was not, nor in any of the rooms of the house could she be found. It was long before I ceased to expect her back, long before I ceased, by some process of child's reasoning, to blame her departure on the gray, unaccountable city. For as early as I can recall a coherent sequence of impressions the city appeared to me strange and unaccountable. There was a secret shut away from me behind every closed house front. The eucalyptus trees seemed to whisper mystery above my head. And at night when the fog came heaping in, thicker than feather beds, across the Mission, and streaming down the long hills on the heels of the wind, it brought an army of ghosts to inhabit the dark places beyond the safety of the lighted window pane. Though I had lived among the 7 hills almost all my life, and though in ways it had grown familiar and even dear to me, yet I never seemed to grow quite used to the city. It had strange tricks of deception that were enough to unsettle the finest faith, for when I looked at it from the windows of my room under the roof it was as flat as a plate, visible in its entirety from end to end, and it was as easy to find Telegraph Hill or the Plaza upon it as it was to pick up a block from the carpet. But when I went abroad in it, it hid away from me. It would never show me more than one street at a time, and never by any chance would it reveal to me, through the tall houses, in what part of it I was walking.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?